Who here believes in divine intervention? I hope so. Okay, I pulled up to the church and I'm thinking, gosh, you know, is there going to be parking? And sure enough, there was only one parking space right by the front door. It's perfect, okay? So I believe in it completely. And I just want to start out by saying that life is a gift. Okay, you have to be very thankful for being alive and for the opportunities that life provides you. And today I want to say thank you to St. Hugh of Lincoln Episcopal Church here in Elgin for providing the presentation venue. Because without this venue, we wouldn't be able to get together and talk, hear the talk. And then I want to thank Piola Mills for inviting me. She sponsored this presentation and provided the delicious luncheon. She made it all herself. Okay, this is fantastic. She's a gourmet cook, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy every bit of it. And finally, Sue Campbell, who's providing the audio visuals and recording of this. I'm hoping that we'll get a good recording and I can upload this up on the YouTube channel, and then all of you can watch it at your leisure. In any case, the title of my talk is How to Live Longer and Well Inexpensively. And I'm praying for some divine inspiration to find the right words so that what I say makes you think, so that you get an understanding and the benefit of living this life. And so how, I want to go over this title, How is a Recipe. And these are going to be more tips. And tips on how, what I've found that make a difference in our lives. And to live, right? We're here to live. We got to take advantage of this life, do as much as we can. And we want to live longer so that we could do more in our lifetime. And we want to live well. Well is a relative term, right? Some people think well one way versus another, but I think of well in terms of health. You're not having any real suffering. You're navigating through life in a meaningful way and inexpensively, because there are various costs to life, monetary costs as well as lifetime costs and to what we do in our lives. So you have to really kind of give it a little bit of thought as you're navigating this world. And I thought that that title basically summarized things. Now, who am I? Well, I've been practicing medicine for over 35 years, and 32 of them have been in digestive and liver health and nutrition. And in the beginning when I started, after my training at University Centers, University of Illinois, where I spent 9 years medical education, and residency, graduate training, and then University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, where I met fantastic people. You know, I opened up a practice in Hoffman Estates, and I was working very hard to be the best doctor by using the ideas that were taught to me. And these were prescribing treatments for illnesses, helping people get better from the ailments that they suffered. But I started to then think about patterns of behavior, which what we do in medicine is practice, okay? What we're doing is every day we're learning something new about people, about ourselves, about our lives. And I started to see patterns of behavior that were leading to a lot of the problems that I had to deal with and try to rescue people from. And so I thought, why aren't we addressing the circumstances and conditions that funnel us into a system that has to fix us, okay? So I started to do that more and more, and I opened up kind of a conceptual practice, Nutritional, Digestive, and Liver Health Matters Institute, and I'm in a process of developing this practice so that I can target health behaviors. Overall, I've written a book, and the book is titled Crude Fuel Monkey Food Diet, which talks about how we really are relying too much on a system that isn't teaching us the kinds of things that we need to live healthier. And the last half of the book, I try to summarize the ideas that allow us to live more independently and enjoy this life without the system being involved in our lives. So this book is available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. I have a few copies here. I'll sell them to you at a discount, but I won't take the money. So if you buy the book, you have to donate that money to the church, okay? And that would be fitting here. Now, a medical disclaimer, I'm not here to be your doctor. I'm here to give you ideas, okay? So I'm sure you all have burning questions, health questions. We can address some of them after the talk, but you also have other questions that have to deal with what's going on, you know, in the system, everything from vitamins to probiotics, and we can address that separately. So, what is health? I want to start out by giving you what my definition of health is. And basically, health is and this is kind of a complicated definition, transparent physical and mental functioning without alarming body signaling or commercial dependency. What does that mean? Okay, transparent means you feel good. You just feel good. Your brain is working and your body is kind of cruising along and you're getting things done in life and you're not aching. Your brain is not making you feel sad. You're just moving through life, accomplishing the kinds of things that you need to do on a day-to-day basis. And it's not being done because you're paying to do that. You're not getting things to keep you moving. You know, and that could be anything from various medications to various other aids that we require. So if you're dependent on some of those things, you're not 100% healthy, but certainly your quality of life can still be excellent depending on your perspective. Now, what is disease? Disease is an adverse health condition with a disturbance in the normal body structure or function. So disease encompasses all the kinds of things that diminish health, that make us not feel well, that cause our bodies to be in disrepair and require that we do something to rebalance our system. So disease is any of a number of things that can affect us to derail us from our life mission or what we're trying to do. Now, part of this talk, I want to talk a little bit about maintaining mental capacity, cognitive function through life, because we want to avoid the kinds of things that cause disease or that diminish our lives because they also affect the way our brains work. And ultimately, as we get older, we are programmed not to work the same physically, but we want to keep our brains as sharp as possible so that we maintain a level of independence. Now, there are many costs to disease. Monetary costs, monetary and time expenses, because time is money, right? So if you're spending money on trying to reverse the effects of disease, and you're running to the doctor and to buy things, all of that costs in the end, and everybody pays for that. You pay out of pocket, society pays, everybody pays. But you also suffer, everybody suffers. You suffer, family suffers, because you're not feeling well and you want to get rebalanced, you want to be able to go on with your life. And with disease, you may lose independence. You have to have other people help you, and you have to have other things to help you get along in life. And the more problems we have with our bodies, the faster we age. Aging is a condition that has to do with losing resilience. So we lose the capability after we get knocked down and fall down to get up and go back to what we do. And the more times we get beat up, the harder it is to get up, and eventually our bodies can't function anymore physically, and that becomes a problem. So there are many costs to disease. Now, the costs to disease in terms of monetary expenditures per capita, that means per person, increase with age. So the older we get, the more money we have to spend to kind of maintain our bodies in the balance that allows us to do things. And they increase across older age groups. So younger people generally require less spending to keep their health in balance compared to older people. Inflation also affects our expenditures. So as costs go up, we spend more money. And overall, the problem is that if you have various health conditions and you're spending a lot of money, you may get into a problem financially. And medical debt is the most common cause of bankruptcy in older adults. So it's to your benefit to try to reduce your costs in life. And health reduces life costs. So if you work to be healthy, your costs overall will be less. Now, what about our life expectancy? It's variable across the board depending on where you live. And there are many factors that affect life expectancy. There are behavioral factors, cultural factors. In societies where people die very young, that lowers the life expectancy for the society. And as you can see, in general, there's a wide variation. And women tend to live longer than men by a few years. And there are many reasons for that. But the bottom line is that life expectancy in the world is not that high, in the 70s to 80s, whereas the lifespan that we have, the possibility in terms of how long we're going to live is much longer. So our lifetime is limited. You're not going to be here forever, okay? That's a reality, and you can bet on that. All right? And the estimate maximal human lifespan is at least 122 years, and it could be longer. But the bottom line is you want to take advantage of your life span and do as much as you can, because life is short anyway. I mean, think about it compared to the life of the universe, 8-10 billion years. You know, what's a few years? It doesn't even matter. But to you it matters, and you need to take advantage of that time so that you learn as much about yourself and the life you're in for what holds beyond. And there are a couple of factors that affect your lifespan, your longevity, potential existence. First is genetically determined by nature. And that's the programming that you have in your genes. So you get a set of genes, you're programmed to live a certain age. And then comes life, nurture. The health factors, how you eat, what you eat, your lifestyle choices, the circumstances in which you live. That is usually a factor less than one because it diminishes your potential existence, your lifespan. Your behaviors do that. So what you want to do is learn how to choose better, to live better and live longer, to increase your lifespan and your health span. And health span is really the most important concept of health, because health span is the time, the duration in which you feel good and you're able to get things accomplished. So healthfulness maximizes your functional lifetime, your capability to do things on this earth, to learn more. So health span is the healthy, functionally effective life duration. You want to get the most out of your life, and that requires effort. So whose responsibility is your health? Okay, yes, responsible adults agreeably take charge of their own health. You need to be accountable for your own health, and you have to actively participate in preserving and defending your own health. Now, how do you go about that? There's commercial health care. Should that be your go-to or backup health plan? Now remember, commercial health care. Unfortunately, every time you get into the commercial health care system, you're spending money, right? And it's getting more and more expensive. I recently had a family member, their kid ended up getting an appendicitis, and it spent 18 hours total in the hospital getting the appendix out. The bill was $50,000. Come on. You know, it can add up over time, right? So ideally, appendicitis is one of these things that we don't really understand 100% how to prevent it, but I'm just saying it's expensive. So your go-to should be choices. Choose better to live better and live longer. Okay, and the backup plan that we have is the best in the world. We can save people on the brink of death, and I always kind of joke about this, but try to keep people alive longer, many years longer than after they've died. Okay, because a lot of people just keep feeling poorly and they don't have a quality of life. But modern medicine keeps prescribing treatments and care, which keeps you here, but doesn't really teach you how to get out of that whole routine. Humans are a life force-driven biological machines. Life force, soul. We have a soul. We do have a soul. There was a recent study that looked at people who had had sudden death in the hospital, and they did everything. Monitored the brain waves. They did CPR. They revived these people, and then they interviewed them. Like, what happened? What was going through, what happened, what did you experience? And it's unfortunate that, if the time comes, 90% of people are not eventually going to make it in the short term, but 10% will. But what they found is that there was an out-of-body experience that was not associated with any pain, but there was contemplation going on. This out-of-body experience could see CPR, had no pain, but the thoughts running through the mind at that time was, how did I treat people? Looking back, what were my intentions in life when I was doing things? Why did I do that? So nobody talked about how they were spending not enough time in the office, right? They were thinking about their relationships with other human beings and how they came to, exercise and execute the kinds of life actions that made those relationships meaningful. Now, because we're biological machines, and I'm going to cover the biological machines part, you're in the right place for the other part, the life soul. You have to nourish that and cultivate that through your teachings and experience. But as biological machines, we have needs and vulnerabilities. We're all susceptible to things happening to us. And things happen more often when we run deficiencies or we expose our bodies to toxicities. So if you don't shingle your roof and a storm comes by, what do you think is going to happen? Nothing good. You have to cover all of the factors that keep your body strong and functioning physically. And then, of course, you have to limit or avoid the kinds of circumstances or things that deteriorate your functioning. So the health span determinants that keep you living longer are deficiencies and toxicities, and we're going to go into that. You know, how to correct your deficiencies and how to avoid, or at least recognize, toxicities. I've broken this down to 8 fundamental pillars of human existence, and I'll go over individually each one is air. We all need air, right? We'll talk about that. Without air, you die in how many minutes? Not too many. What about water? Few days, right? Fuel. We're biological machines. We need energy. Fuel. Movement. Okay, so without food, you die in a few weeks. Without movement, in a coma, or when you don't move, you start to deteriorate over time, and it's a relatively short time. Rest. How many days can you go without sleeping? Connection, right? We need other people in our lives. Purpose. You have to have a life purpose. And then you have to avoid toxicities, right? Because after all of your effort, why deteriorate your system? Overall, our existence has to do with the big picture. There are existential relationships. What does that mean? It's a fancy term. Our existence is based on relationships. Relationships between people, relationships of your mind to your body, relationships of your immune system to the gut bacteria. All of these factors increase our existence on this earth. So successful human existences are based on fruitful relations. So you want to optimize your existential relationships within yourself and outside of yourself to allow you to have a longer lifespan. Let's take air first. Air. What is air? You don't see it. These are molecules that are surrounding our Earth, and the main component of air that we're interested in is oxygen. Our bodies need oxygen to activate all of the biological processes and metabolism that goes on inside of us. All right, we need air. No air, not good. Then there are other components in air. And the problem is that we're not very respectful of the air that we have in our atmosphere on many different levels, through pollution and various other factors. We're not respectful of our relationship to air. We have lungs, right? We need to take care of our lungs. They're the filters that allow the air to come in and exchange other gases that we don't need. We need to be mindful that air is a very important part of our existence. Air should be clean and pollution-free. And unfortunately, environmental factors often compromise air quality unavoidably. Is it really unavoidable? Or could we really start thinking about how we approach this earth, this world in which we live, this physical world, which is a gift, and make the air better? So some of the things we could do individually is avoid smoking and vaping. These are chemicals we're putting in. We're gunking up our lung filters. We're damaging them. And we do it for a reason I'll get into in a little bit. But the fact of the matter is that deteriorates our air filters. Also, cooking. Cooking is a known cancer-causing agent. You need to filter you need to vent the air in the kitchen as you're cooking, so the smoke doesn't collect, doesn't go into your lungs. If you work in an occupational setting, painter, dust, you're a stone cutter, you need to wear a mask to protect yourself. Masks work. If you want a great little experiment in terms of masks, and I was talking to people about this during the whole COVID business, but the fact is, go out in the winter and just blow air out in a cold day out of your mouth, and you see the big, air, the water vapor come out, right? Put on one of those surgical slinky masks and you see a little less. The N95, it just pretty much blocks most of it. Well, it does the same thing the other way. So if you're occupationally exposed to things that affect your breathing, protect yourself. And you need to protect yourself to reduce further lung compromise in an under environmental circumstances where the air may not be high quality. You're living in a city, or you're driving back and forth to work in traffic, and you're breathing the exhaust fumes of other cars. Some things are unavoidable. Now, there are other factors that affect our air, the cleanliness of our air fresheners and sanitizers. Some people get huge reactivity to that. I don't know if any of you may have lung issues, but it's possible to incite a respiratory reaction by breathing air fresheners. I remember having a cold once, and I was in a bathroom washing my hands, and then there was this air freshener that just exploded, this fresh air. And within a few seconds, I started to wheeze and cough. I had to run out of the bathroom because it was like a bomb went off in there. So the bottom line is that there are things that we do that also affect us that we're not even aware of. And we need to take care of our lungs. There are 200,000 to 300,000 people that die yearly, at least about 140,000 from lower respiratory illnesses, COPD, emphysema, and maybe another 130,000, 140,000 from lung cancer, and those are preventable. Next one is water. What is water? Water fills our cells to give us volume. We use water in our systems so that the chemical reactions can take place. Anybody have an idea of how a battery works with water? It needs water for the cells to do their energy. But water also allows us to eliminate wastes from our body. In fact, it's very important to get water, because if you don't get water, you concentrate a lot of the molecules in your system, and you're prone toward even heart attacks or strokes if you're dehydrated. You need to have water to function in life. And our minimum daily water requirements are based on the ambient temperature. In hot climates, you need more water. Whether we exert ourselves, and the measurements that I'm going to give is non-exertional. And it also depends on whether you have heart, kidney, or liver problems. But it's about a ½ ounce per pound of lean body weight. It's not our body weight necessarily, because excess body weight, which I call cargo weight, it's fat. It's an oil. It doesn't have water. The water we need are muscles and our blood. And what's lean body weight? You'll be surprised. It's 106 pounds for the first 5 feet plus 6 pounds per inch, greater than 5 feet for males, and 100 pounds for the first 5 feet and 5 pounds per inch for females over 5 feet. We don't have a lot of lean mass. So a lot of the weight we carry is a lot of excess weight that gets there through how we spend our time fueling. So fuel, what's fuel? Fuel is the energy source for our bodies. It allows us to motorize, to move. It gives us energy. We're physical, biological machines. We need energy. Any physical machine requires some source of fuel. electricity today, electric cars, gas in the past, but we need fuel. And the fuels that we take in, just like air and water, if we're not mindful of that, can deteriorate our system. The best body fuels are whole natural foods having their name as the ingredient, okay? And that's very important because our energy and nutrient sources can come from whole natural foods where the name is the ingredient, or processed and refined foods and beverages, which are factory manufactured products created artificially. That's a big term there. But basically, these have made-up names with made-up ingredients. Okay, what's the ingredient of an avocado? Avocado. Strawberry, strawberry. Banana, banana. You name it. Cashew, cashew. What's the ingredient of a hot dog? Pizza, dressing, cookie, bread, right? It could be anything. And in today's market, those ingredients change overnight. So whole natural foods are naturally balanced. We're biological machines. We evolved on this earth after we ended up here. However we ended up here, I believe in some kind of divine intervention to be here because we're too complicated. It's too miraculous for us to have come from some soup, okay, in the mud. I'm sorry, this is a bias. All right, I'm biased, okay? You know, but the fact is we're miraculous beings. And then think of the animals and the trees and the relationships that we have. But the bottom line is we evolved along this avenue, and whole natural foods are naturally balanced. And they break down slowly as we use the compartments of our digestive system. We have numerous compartments in our system, and every compartment is a department with a job to do. So the stomach doesn't have any teeth, does it? Right? The teeth and the saliva are in the mouth. Then there's the stomach, the small intestine, the colon. You know, the esophagus is the transfer organ. But whole natural foods utilize the whole system. And in fact, the starting point of our digestive system, our mouth, has gauges. We measure things as they go in, not after the fact. So you have to take your time eating slower. You have to take your time eating slower. Here's a technique. Close your eyes while eating. Load with just the right amount where you can chew with your eyes closed. Close your eyes, chew into a liquid or a paste, swallow, take a sip of water. When you close your eyes, you'll be able to concentrate and focus on what's in your mouth to make sure you digest things well. Not to mention, you'll be signaling the brain this far from your mouth on what you're eating. Now, processed and refined food, so whole natural foods are naturally balanced. They break down slowly. They use the whole gut, and they absorb gradually into your blood. Anybody hear of, if you have sugar levels, hemoglobin A1C, what's my hemoglobin A1C? What's the glycemic index of foods? These are measurements of how fast you're introducing fuel, sugars into your bloodstream, because we can measure irreversibly bound sugar to certain hemoglobin, for instance, which is the carrier of oxygen. But in any case, there are ways to measure how fast the fuels are going into your system. The big problem when that happens is you overwhelm your cells with too much energy too fast. Now, processed and refined foods and beverages, as I said, are factory manufactured, have made-up names. They're artificially unbalanced because processing deconstructs food. You know, they take wheat, and then they go, nobody likes fiber. Let's get rid of the bran, right? And they go, geez, gluten is really tasty. It gives really nice shape to things, so let's add more gluten. You see, things get unbalanced, and they say, well, it might not last on a shelf too long. Let's add other things to it. So these foods are artificially imbalanced, not to mention that there's a potential for contaminants across the board. Because as foods are being made in vats, on conveyor belts and tubes, they're picking up contaminants, and then they package them. And they break down very quickly, and they absorb rapidly using less gut. So they overwhelm your cells from being able to manage that infusion of energy. And guess what? Then it raises your sugar level, your cholesterol level, and then you take medicines for sugar, medicine for cholesterol. You see, we artificially treat those conditions when the better option is to eat foods that are whole, natural, balanced. So whole natural foods nourish the entire gut. They toughen the gut lining barrier function to prevent leakiness. There's a lot of things in our gut that are going through us, and they could be toxic to our system. They could just poison us. Not to mention there's bacteria thriving in there. So we want to have a nice, strong system. Some of the chemicals that are put into foods destroy that lining. And they also strengthen the gut immune response. So our immune system, our small intestine is the largest immune organ of the body. And you train your immune system through the foods you eat, through what goes through you. And it also, these whole natural foods feed gut microbes the fiber to promote health. Gut microbes are mainly living in the colon. I'll talk about that. And they feed on fiber. Fiber only comes from plants. There's no fiber in animal products. And when you put in these whole natural foods, they also promote elimination of gut waste products. They're colon scrubbers, right? You eliminate waste easier. You're not bound up. You don't have to have any kind of chemical substances to make you go. So there's a lot of benefits to whole natural food. The gut microbes, basically at the end of your colon, are currently being studied so that the system can sell you probiotics and other things. Okay, there's really no definite benefits that we're aware of probiotics. You have these gut microbes that reside in your colon. They outnumber your cells 10 to 100 to 1. There's trillions of them, hundreds and thousands of different kinds, and they feed only on fiber. As I said, they modulate your immune response. This engine is responsible for the way you work physically. You have to nourish this engine with the right nutrients, and you don't poison it, okay? Because they control your mental and physical function and well-being on numerous levels. And they also generate vitamins and nutrients for you. Anybody ever wonder why some of these snack products that are available on the market have shelf lives of 2 years? When you have some fresh food and you leave it out, and then 3 hours later it starts to smell, or bread, that's fresh, and 2-3 days it starts to mold. Well, because the kinds of balance and concentration of these artificially produced food nutrients and the preservatives are toxins. Nothing wants to live on that. So when you ingest it, the problem is you poison your gut microbes too, right? It affects the communities of organisms that not to mention it might deteriorate your lining on a way. So you have to be aware that processed foods are not great. I have a little rule here. This is Dr. Z's 2 daily servings rule. When I see people in my office, I ask questions concerning, like, what do you eat? What kind of do you eat any fruit? Do you eat any vegetables? And across the board, the people with more health problems have very restricted diets, more processed-based. In fact, processing, there was a recent study out of Brazil that showed that the more processed foods you eat, the shorter your lifespan. Really? So the more servings per day, and what's processed foods? Factory-made food and beverage products. They shorten your lifespan. And remember, this is how to live longer and well and expensively. So these cheap foods are sold 2 and 3 for $1 and are made fast. They satisfy our, they gratify us quickly. But the problem is they make us die faster. and less well. So 2 fruit, minimum, 2 veggies. These are 85 to 95% water. Okay, whether raw or cooked, doesn't matter. It's been shown in groups of people to increase your lifespan by 16%. What's that? What's a measly 16% when inflation is 10%? No, 16% is the difference between living from either to 80 or 92 years, okay? So you do want to, get every percentage point you can. So 2 nuts, seeds, beans, legumes, the seed family, okay? No more than 2. They're kind of more calorically dense, but they provide protein, very healthy fats, and fiber, of course. 2 grains. What are grains? Well, whole natural wheat, brown rice, preferably barley, quinoa. If you're going to eat the potato, eat the skin. Leave the skin in, it makes you thin, okay? It's got the fiber in there. And 2 dairy, actually, cancer prevention and lifespan is based on whether or not you eat dairy. And that should be yogurt or aged fermented cheeses. It shouldn't be vanilla ice cream, right? Like, I eat dairy. I just had this soft serve, like the big one. No. It really should be the kinds of dairy products that were around forever, right? And 2 animal. I just call it animal. Seafood, poultry, meat, eggs. They provide protein and variable fat. Ideally, seafood, poultry, then red meat. Red meat in today's market, anything, beef, pork, mutton, you name it. These things, unfortunately, the feed they get, they're marbled with fat. They can potentially create problems for you. All right, so we went air, water, fuel, movement. You got to move your body. You have to have that relationship between your brain and your peripheral body, your arms and legs, your joints. It doesn't matter how you move. The key is you need to move. Moving is very important to increase blood flow into your brain. You need air that makes sure you nourish your brain cells. Remember, we want to maintain cognitive function. You need water to get good blood pressure, the right fuels so we don't poison our little capillaries. You need movement. Moving increases blood flow to your brain. So they did experiments on moving people who were really kind of immobile, and they did functional MRI scans, and when they moved their arms and legs passively, there was increased blood flow to their brain. And so they're like, maybe people in a coma, we don't have to wait for them to do physical therapy, on their own accord. Maybe we just move their arms and legs, get them moving, and that'll improve things. We want to maintain physical fitness when we move. And that's the ability to survive and meet the physical challenges and demands within our own living environment. And we want to be able to execute the activities of daily living with adequate endurance. If you're a Sherpa climbing a mountain, you need different physical fitness, don't you? And if you're working in a job or at home and you're getting tired, your endurance is poor, then you're not fit enough to carry out the activity that you need to do. So, how do we get fitness? Fitness develops through regular physical activity. You need to be active. You actually need to move to be able to move. Get it? Okay? It doesn't happen. You don't will it. Very interesting. They found out the chemical agent released in your body that benefits you when you move. All right? Through experiment. Now they're like, we can sell a pill. You'll never have to move. We can sell you the pill, and it will give you all the benefits that you need without having to move, right? Watch more TV. In fact, the average American, at least 4 hours of television and screen viewing a day. 4 hours a day or more. Think about it. The ball game and another ball game and then the news and the cooking show and how to fix a house. And you get in there and 6 hours later, you could have been a genius. If you read during that period of time or moved your body, you would have been an Olympic athlete. Move your body. It will make you live longer well. That's the key. So there are different ways of measuring what our physical activity is like. Metabolically, based on calories burned. And so very simple. You move more, you burn more calories. Can you imagine that? Wow, that's amazing. Okay, move more, burn more calories. But the important thing that they found is any movement generates chemicals in your brain and in your muscles where there's an afterburn for hours. So you continue to burn calories for hours after you moved. So continued movement throughout the day is very important. A second level of physical activity measurements are, they target the heart rate. We have a maximum heart rate. It's 220 minus our age. And you're not going to achieve the same heart rate as a teenager if you're older, right? Moderate intensity is achieving 50 to 70% of your maximum heart rate. Our breathing quickens, but we're not breathless. We start to sweat a little bit after 10 minutes, but we can talk. Hey, how's it going? Yeah, it's pretty good, right? And then vigorous is 70-85% of maximum heart rate, where our breathing becomes rapid and deep. We start to sweat after a few minutes, and we're too winded to talk, right? That's vigorous. Now, the CDC makes recommendations for how much exercise we should have. First of all, obtain a medical clearance. Make sure you don't have any health conditions that keep you from moving. If you're elderly, if you've been inactive or sedentary, make sure your health is okay. And especially if you suffer any health conditions or if you're pregnant. And make sure that you choose physical activities for your level of fitness. So if you haven't been active for a while, you don't join high-intensity interval training, right? Do some boxing, you will hurt yourself. It takes a while for your body to physically adapt to movement biologically. Okay, so for you to be able to withstand, it takes time. You have to be respectful of your body's biological time and energy. And it takes time to do. It takes time to heal a broken leg, right? So why shouldn't it take you time to be able to withstand or adapt to activity levels? The bottom line is start low and go slow. CD exercises, exercise guidelines for adult. Move more and sit less throughout the day. Get up, move around. Do something, dance in place, it doesn't matter, right? Walk up and down the stairs. And on a weekly basis, we should be exercising 2.5 to 5 hours, moderate intensity. Remember, that's based on our heart rate, 50 to 70%. Or 1.25 to 2.5 hours of vigorous intensity, or some combination of that. Spread the activity out throughout the week. Don't do it all in one day. Although, there's some studies that show if you do it in one day, but then you're wasting the opportunity on the other days. And as little as 2 to 10 minute intervals adds up to provide you benefit. Stretching reduces your cardiovascular risk by 10%. Okay? And you need to have a little resistance on your muscles. So use resistance bands, weights, that kind of stuff. A couple of days per week. Don't overdo it. You'll hurt yourself, but at least throw some extra resistance other than just moving your arms and legs. You could have a couple of cans of vegetables or some light weights, a pound, 3 pounds, whatever you can tolerate. A couple days per week. Do all muscle groups. For older adults, do a lot of different things physically. Your physical activity throughout the day counts. So washing dishes, these days we have dishwasher, washing clothes, moving around, plus doing a little exercise is very important. And do things based on your level of physical activity. If you're less physically fit, then try to spread things out better so you don't hurt yourself. And include balance exercises so you don't fall. Falls, I think one study basically determined that 10% of 70-year-olds and older fall yearly. Okay, so work on your balance. And then if you have any limitations, if you're limping, if you're having problems, then modify your physical activity so you can still be active. You can exercise against a wall, you can exercise sitting, you can exercise in a chair. You don't have to necessarily go to a health club. I exercise at home 15 to 30 minutes every single day, 7 days a week. Why not? And that would be the period of time to get me to the health club. Then I'd chat with everybody because I really can't stop talking once I get in there to the health club. And so 3 hours later, I probably wouldn't exercise much more than 15 to 30 minutes anyway. So I figured, why bother? I'll stay home. Rest. Okay, so after you've been active, you need rest. That's when your cells regenerate, right? You burned out throughout the day existing. You need rest. Your body actually repairs itself during rest. Repairs itself, and even rest from fueling. We have this thing, intermittent fasting. It's not about weight loss. Intermittent fasting is giving your cells a break from the energy you pounded into it so that you can repair the cells. So you need 12 to 14 hours of no calories. During that time, you can drink water or non-caloric beverages like tea or coffee. You need to give your cells a rest. You need to regenerate. When we're chronically sleep deprived, we have more stress. We're more stressed out. We have disorganized thinking. We forget more things. We're irritable. We don't get things done as easily. We trudge throughout the day. Our brain cell signaling doesn't work because we're not motivated, because we need to regenerate. We want to eat junk food. Why? Because it gives us this reward. In fact, processed foods have been likened to cigarettes. There are certain things that hit your reward center in your brain. See if you can see the similarities. Heroin, cocaine, alcohol, tobacco, sugar, and fat. And in fact, we gravitate in life toward pleasure and away from pain. And if we've stoked our system, if we've adapted to a certain amount of pleasure throughout the day, drinking, smoking, you name it, eating sugar and fat, when we're away from that, we suffer. We're sad, and we know the fix, right? We go back to it. Well, when we're not rested, we're stressed out, and we feel bad, and we're looking for a fix. And the fix could be sugar and fat. And so there's more heart attacks, and people don't sleep well. Our immune resistance is lower, and it shortens our lifespan. So rest and sleep are the R&Rs: recharge, restore depleted energy, we rebuild and replace worn-out cells, repair and regenerate deteriorated and injured tissues, reboot and reprogram, blah, blah, regenerate and revitalize health and well-being, okay? The bottom line is R&R stands for all kinds of very important things that we need. So in terms of rest, pay attention to your body. When you're real super tired, like really, God, I'm really, really tired, what should you do? Drink a whole pot of coffee? Huh. What should I do? Where's the coffee? I'm going to make a huge pot of coffee. All right, right? Pay attention to your body, shouldn't you? It's talking to you. Remember, there's this relationship we have with our bodies. Existential relationships. Pay attention. Ideally, we need about 7 to 8 hours of sleep nightly. Ideally, okay? And that's based on experiments. If you don't get, you can take power naps throughout the day. If you keep it less than 45 minutes, you're not groggy. Less than 5 hours a night sleep increases health risks. A lot of us are driven to watch television or do other things. It becomes a problem. And if you're working throughout the week, 2 jobs, you can catch up on insufficient sleep on weekends. Okay, connection, right? We're connecting. Human beings require other human beings to exist on Earth. It's a fact of life. People who are isolated under any circumstances have deteriorated mental functioning, physical functioning, you name it. We need connections. Human relations are integral to our life survival. We need people to be able to live. Human existences are interdependent. Who here built their own house completely? Okay. So you had a construction crew, right? Who put up these roads? Who put up the church? We need people. Societies exist because humans connect. and make great things happen. There's strength in numbers. It's very important when you have bad connections, relationships, it affects you in many different ways. Shortens your lifespan. It really does. In fact, if you need to hang around with the kinds of individuals that have positive, that are positive, that make your life proactive. If you have deficient or absent human connections, you don't participate in human affairs, right? You're sitting home. People died during the pandemic being isolated just because they didn't have a connection with others. It's not enough to do it through email, through the computer, through telephone. You need this in-person connection where all of our senses are working, connected, or able to experience each other through all of our senses. Okay, so when we don't have the human connections, our life experiences suffer. We don't have as good of a perspective. We don't have as much empathy or understanding. Our brain doesn't really understand how others are different from us and how we need to live together. You're more stressed, our health risks go up, and we have our lifespans go down. Remember, this is about how to live longer and well, inexpensively. So, it's very important. Human connections, there was a study recently done, and it kind of covered the three main, if you want to keep your brain functionality, they examined over 100 studies, as people get older. What are the three most important things to keep your body or your brain functioning as you get older? One is motion. I talked about that, movement. Number two is relations. You need to have relations with other people to create perspectives. And the next, so basically that connectivity creates social ties, builds support systems for people to help you as you get older. You have a sense of belonging and identity, who you are based on your group. Expands your lifespan, and it gives meaning to life. Now, the third part of that brain functionality is purpose or passion. So you have, the first one was motion for your brain, relations, and I covered all the other components, how to keep your body functioning. But the final one is purpose, passion. You have to have a purpose in life. Why do you get up in the morning? Life is short. Why squander it away? Learn as much as you can. Spend time with others. Learn more about yourself, because we don't have the same perspective as other people, because other people come from different places. We're all human. If aliens attacked us, who would we turn to? Each other, right? So all of the prejudices and all of the problems that we have in life would melt away because we'd be fighting aliens. Right? We wouldn't be like, okay, let me get my 10 dogs. We're going to go on. No, you'd be like, okay, I need reinforcements. There's strength in number. And purpose includes having short and long-term goals to give life direction. So you have to have short and long-term goals. Life has to be meaningful. You have to approach life with passion, since it ain't over till it's over. I'm sorry. Don't be waiting there for death. It's going to find you. Don't worry about it. It's a short time. Okay? And strive to learn something new regularly to experience a sense of accomplishment and life satisfaction. Every day, learn something new. You'll live longer, you'll feel better, you'll get more done. Now the final one, after you've done all that good stuff for your body, so let's say you go to church, you're morally there, you're eating the right things, you're exercising, you're doing all that. And then you come home and you take cyanide. All right. God, messed up. So you need to avoid things that are toxic. You need to be aware. okay, that there are things in life that create toxicities. And what's toxicities? Any force, behavior, activity that compromises our normal physical and mental body functioning to create adverse consequences that are disadvantageous to health, well-being, or survival. So some things kill us over time. You know, the processed food industry has been likened to the addictive substances that tobacco was many years ago, because when people consume sugar and fat, you know, I used to go, love this donut shop. You know, donuts are made a lot of sweet, gooey stuff dipped in fat. I couldn't stop eating them until I had like 5 and I got like sick. I'm like, oh, God, that makes me, I had to stop based on that. Okay, now I understand that now, because those kinds of things affect our brain and disengage our capability to measure things accurately. As humans, we have needs, wants, and craves that drive our human decision making. We have these primal instincts that are genetically programmed for us to survive the world. And in fact, this is a very interesting twin study done recently. Identical twins look the same early on because they have these genes that make them function through life about the same, so that they survive. But as they get older, they start to look differently. You know, they look different because their nurture, their exposures in life affect how they express those genes, how they activate or deactivate genes. So we have these biological urges and needs, and guess what? Commercial industries are right there to supply our human needs, wants, and craves, right? They're there to give us what we want, when we want it, instant gratification. And it's not always good, because sometimes we just need runaway escapes. We're in pain. We need donuts. We need sugar. We need a cigarette. We need some alcohol. Life was rough. We have runaway escapes. I got to get out of this. This was too much. I'm overwhelmed. I wasn't respectful of my biological time and energy. And then, we have maybe too much money, and we think of, there's this concept I developed, addictification. You need to spend money to have fun, okay? You run around, you go, geez, I'm going to go shopping sprees. I'm going to go and, eat a pizza every Friday because I can't have fun any other way. And then you get into this pattern of behavior, right? And the industry goes, hey, wait, 2 for 1, right? It's on sale, 20% off. I get all these coupons and advertisements. I'm always like, I went into a department store actually to buy this chair because I figured I wanted something. And as I'm walking in, I got a great deal on this, and I needed it, okay? But I'm walking around going, maybe I should buy some other things in here, right? And it wasn't like I really needed anything, but I just felt like, geez, if I was spending money, I was going to just feel better that day, So addictification, you need to spend money to have fun, right? And then what happens is, as we mess up, our failures, mistakes, and misfortunes generate revenue streams for profiteering commercial industries. What does that mean? That means that when you mess up, it's profitable for you to keep messing up, so that the industry is right there to give you what you want, okay? So if you never really learn how not to mess up or what to do, you're always going to be a revenue generator for the system, right? There's various components, the credit industry, I always say, the reason that there's, all these systems, especially the medical system, is we're a sick care business. People just stay sick and we just keep giving them instead of real health care. We're not mindful of what's funneling us into this, which is what was the reason I decided to start thinking on a different level. Poor dietary and lifestyle choices compromise our health, and they require industry rescues and bailout plans, right? My sugar's too high, my blood pressure's too high, I got all these problems, I need help, okay? Well, co-pays, deductibles, you name it, right? You name it across the board, because we're not making the right choices. Better choices make for better lives. The healthcare industry rescues just antidote our toxic health behaviors. So I liken it to being the snake charmer who keeps getting, cobra venom because he keeps getting bitten. They just like, okay, keep you from dying, right? So the fact is, can you do better? Because the problem with the industry is then we get into this concept that I made up is called dependification. Now you dependent, I could never get better because I need the system to help me, to fix me, to get out of this, because I can't think of a way to get out of this mess. Because the system says, oh no, you have to take that forever, you have to do all these kinds of things because, it doesn't tell you, well, yeah, you should start thinking better of how to make better choices across the board. And if you do that, you will be better. In fact, there's the lifestyle medicine, and it's a boarded specialty now. It just started being in, 2018 was the first year that they boarded this. And it says that 80% of our health sufferings are caused by bad choices. 80%, right? And so they're like, hey, let's have a medical specialty to take care of, the choice part of it. Well, they're not doing well up against all the other specialties that are there, the surgical specialties, the medical specialties that are selling you rescue bailout plans for bad choices. So eventually I hope, because we can't go on, financially running up a bill for the kinds of choices that we're making that are not helping us in our lives. So dependification, you think only the industry can help you. So common toxicity sources, I already mentioned them, tobacco, alcohol, right? They also hit your brain. Processed and refined food and beverage products, recreational drugs, runaway escapes. I need something. My life is so stressful. Instead of dealing with my stress, mindfulness, I need something. Red meat. Unfortunately, linked to colon cancer, coronary vascular complications. There's a lot of marbling and it traps a lot of toxins. There's a lot of bad feed. Hormones are used. Bigger animals suffer more. You name it, okay? Vitamins and health supplements. Okay, so we're living poorly and we feel bad, and so we're going to take a vitamin. Well, if you're eating really well, getting most of your vitamins, why do you need 100% of the vitamins or more to get you? You don't, right? So if you're obviously not feeling well, you need to look at your life and live better so you're not as sick. Vitamins have everything from fillers, casings, and coatings that have a lot of chemicals in there. Our medications give us on-target effects, desirable effects, but also off-target effects. We can have side effects, allergies, we can have all kinds of problems. We can feel ill that are related to that. Burnt foods are a source of chemicals that actually cause cancer. That browning effect that we have can be toxic. Our hygiene and beauty products have various chemicals. We apply them. We want to look beautiful. I just want to say one thing is fitness is attractive, right? If somebody is really, really fit, you can hang a rag on them. And it's like, God, that rag looks great, right? You don't need any, you don't need any special, clothes then. Cleaners and sanitizers are toxicity sources. Our working environment, I got on that. Relationships can be toxic, right? You could be hanging around with the wrong crowd, or marital relations is bad. You just don't connect. You're not working problems out to live together. And stress. Stress causes cancers to develop, grow, and spread. We're all stressed, but part of the problem is poor health choices make us more stressed. Poor sleep, you name it, relationships. So you need to address the source of your stress. What is funneling you into this set of circumstances? So I've covered basically, so in summary, health is a stronghold with 8 foundational pillars that support longevity and a longer health span. And those are air, got to be clean, water, fuel, movement, rest, connection, purpose, and toxicity avoidance, right? Healthfulness requires a commitment to adopt, prioritize, and execute actions that promote health and longevity. You actually got to do it. So achieving health requires effort to do rather than excuses not to do. I didn't get to exercise today. I had all this others. You didn't prioritize it. Healthfulness reduces life costs. And human connections increase life richness. You're not a community of one. Purposeful lives are more rewarding. If you got something to do, you get up out of bed, you go for it. And finally, correcting our human body deficiencies and eliminating toxicities increase life quality and span. Thank you. So we can go over questions if you'd like. I'd be happy to answer. I just gave you the tips, the recipe, as far as I see it based on the patterns of human behaviors that work and that are repeatedly confirmed in the studies that look at these factors. So everything I've spoken to you about has been distilled from all of these studies that continuously come out and only spend 3 to 5 hours on the internet, under news feeds. Whereas if some major football player is having some kind of marital issue, you could, 3 months, there it is, and they did this, and they did that, right? That, that is a little distraction. It causes you to get away and not have to pay attention to your own lives in terms of why you feel a certain way. Why do you want to run away? What you want to do otherwise. Okay, any questions?
Are you talking about Tom Brady?
No names mentioned. No, I'm telling you just in general. In general. It could be a pop star. Okay.
I keep getting this pop-up ad on these gummies that you lose 60 pounds in 60 days.
Exactly.
What is that?
What is that? It's a quick fix. It doesn't really exist. All right, people who lose 60 pounds in 60 days should be checked out for pancreas cancer, tuberculosis. It's not natural, your body. They're chemicals that should not go into your body. The bottom line is they're factory-made substances that are feeding us the immediate gratification system. Instead of saying, how do I live my life? How do I make the changes that will be lasting throughout my life forever and allow my body to function at a better level? I want a quick fix today because I don't really want to pay attention to anything I'm really doing in my life. So the bottom line is there a quick fix? Can you say 3 prayers and get into heaven? Huh? These 3 prayers, but they're like special prayers, okay? They only come for members, but you have to have a membership, and every month we'll send you another just in case you forget the words, right? Come on.
But it's just chemicals then? That's all it is?
It's always chemicals. Your existence is chemical relationships. You got to have the right relationships, and relationships have to do with, again, the kinds of factors that have evolved over time with our bodies. Not factory-made. Remember we talked about human failures, mistakes, and misfortunes generate revenue streams for profiteering industries, okay? So whatever you failed, well, why do you want to take the gummy? Ask yourself.
Well, I don't.
Okay, but why would people want to take a gummy? Right, exactly. So you failed to lose weight any other way, right?
Yeah.
Because maybe you never thought about the right way, and now you want a quick fix, right? Anyway, okay, next. Anything else? Anybody else? Yes?
Are any multivitamins good at all?
Okay, here's my concept of multivitamins. Food products are, foods today may not have the complement of vitamins. I read at one point that there were over 3,000 different tomatoes in the world. Well, we see 3, plum tomatoes, beefsteak, whatever. So maybe we're not 100% getting all of the vitamins that we need, but you can actually look up on the internet, like vitamins, we have essential, vitamins are cofactors in chemical reaction. We need very little, and there's only a few of them, all right? So, so you can look up on the internet what's the most whole natural foods that provide them, and go for that, because then you provide fiber, you do all these kinds of things. So theoretically, if you're actually trying to eat foods to supply your body with the appropriate nutrients and fuel, you don't really need vitamins, okay? And many studies actually are looking that there really isn't benefits to vitamins unless you're low on them. You don't go out in the sun because you work all day, you're inside, it's wintertime. We run deficiencies, so they supplement what we're not getting. But if you can supplement what you need better, do it that way, naturally. Yes?
With the soil and the way agriculture works, the soil is not generally as healthful. That's why we take vitamins, because unless you get organic food that is grown on soil that's very, very healthy.
Okay, very interesting, maybe. But the fact is we can't do anything about the soil, and hence I take vitamins. But there are enough options that are cross-beneficial. Okay, so you have many different, not everything is grown in one soil, especially whole natural foods. There's so we don't know that. That's a big statement, the soil. Yes, it's not the best, but the fact is that many people that come to my practice don't eat fruit and vegetables pretty much at all. So they're dependent on some alternative source of nutrients. But these natural nutrients, these whole foods, release vitamins and nutrients slowly over 35 feet of gut. Whereas if you're taking a vitamin, it explodes all of this vitamin without anything else in your system all at once. So it says here's 500 milligrams of vitamin C when you only need 60 per the whole day, theoretically 60 to 80 max. So the problem is they supply us with an overabundance beyond, and then our bodies have to do something with them. They have to eliminate the excess or store it or do something with it. And if you're running deficiencies for a reason, it's not a medical problem, it's basically choice related, well, change your choices, make them better. You'll live longer, they will benefit you. Anybody else? Yes?
I just wanted to thank you, Dr. Z, for the takeaway, the suggestion of Dr. Z's twos.
The twos, yeah.
Of the whole foods that we should be learning how to deal with and to be creative in cooking and do 2 dairy, 2 fruits, 2 veggies, 2 meats, 2 grains.
Right, very easy.
Very easy.
Very easy, and really whole natural. Yes.
Depending upon the bad stuff you buy in the
Yeah.
store anyway.
Yes, you're going to be exposed to toxins. I told you some things are not avoidable, but at least you could make an effort to make sure that you satisfy the basic needs that your body has. And then remember, it's all a package deal. They're relationships. It isn't one thing that's going to make you healthy. It isn't a vitamin. It isn't this. It isn't doing high intensity interval training. It's the whole combination of effects, because your machine has many needs across the board, and you need to be thoughtful about taking care of those needs. It needs to be a priority. You need to execute these kinds of things across the board. Well, you're welcome. Yes?
Did I hear you say before about you don't need the probiotics?
We have trillions, 100 trillion organisms. The probiotics supply 25 billion. It's a drop in a bucket. Maybe 50 billion, who cares? It's a tiny bit of commercially determined microbes. Like these 25 or these 50 or these 100 are going to be great. We have thousands, okay? So I basically liken it to, if you think about world existence, let's say, well, I'm Polish, partly Polish, and let's say I drove through an Italian neighborhood. I probably wouldn't have a big impact on that neighborhood. And that's the whole thing, is these probiotics pass through you, and they may not take up the niche inside of your body to benefit you. There's a lot of relationships. These are communities of organisms. So, and they develop based on what you feed, what you put in, your environmental circumstances, the relationships you have. And you want to promote healthy communities of organisms. And we know that a variety of plants consumed across the board are associated with just more richer communities of organisms, and they all are interdependent. And so throwing something down that's the same formula all the time, it doesn't really change it. Vegetarians, strict vegetarians, have completely different microbes than people who are carnivorous. They don't even overlap. So then you're throwing this one here that's commercially developed. Where does that fit into that? And in fact, there are some studies that show probiotics actually create symptoms and can be toxic in a hospital to people who are susceptible or vulnerable. Their immune systems are weakened for various reasons. You actually have various adverse effects of probiotics. So the fact is, it's a commercial product. You have natural options. Why not go for those first?
Would that be like yogurt?
Yogurt, go with the stuff that's been around, Greek yogurt, for thousands of years, rather than a lot of these newly developed, technologically developed yogurts. Yes, great natural probiotics include sauerkraut, yogurt, kefir, those kinds of things. Absolutely. And the key is, as you're putting these down, they feed on the fiber, and that will establish your communities of organisms better and give you health, because there's good fats in yogurt, there's energy, there's a calcium, you name it. There's a lot of other benefits rather than a pill that's just giving you a number of microbes. Yes?
Okay, obviously fresh, frozen vegetables, canned vegetables, are they worth eating? I mean,
Okay, fresh, frozen. Ideally, you go and develop a relationship with your shopping and foods. You touch the broccoli, you see what's fresh. Okay, that's fresh. Sometimes certain things, certain vegetables are not an option, but they're packaged. And they're harvested into a bag. They can be an alternative source, fresh, frozen. Remember, they've been sitting in a freezer for a while. You know, the important thing about that is there have been, especially these packaged vegetables, have been associated with some contamination and dysentery across the board. So make sure you wash things really well and, you know, you cook it up. The problem with cans are that there's a lot of, you know, in terms of cans, there's coatings in cans that prevent the reactivity of the contents with the metal or whatever content it is. And the coatings have various chemicals, preservatives to keep it from breaking down. That's why there's a certain lifespan, a shelf life, because there's a lot of reactivity that happens sitting on a shelf in various temperature conditions. And it's very hard to assess kind of freshness. You have to look at the best by dates or freshness, and you're not sure what the storage conditions were or whatever happened. So, you know, you're going down a notch. Eating canned vegetables is better than eating absolutely no vegetables, okay? So, but you want to go up the scale, right? You want to go up the chain to actually benefit your body.
How about plant-based meats?
Well, think about that. Plant-based meats. Okay, this is created stuff. right? There are no plant-based meats. What do you mean, like?
Yeah, Impossible Burger.
Right, exactly. They're generated in factories, right? You should either eat meats, ideally free range, you know, that kind of stuff, and plants. You know, organic is a concept. First of all, there's one major supplier chain that has many organic foods. All of them are boxed. They're artificially made. Just because it's organic doesn't mean it's fresh, whole, or natural. They were created in certain ways according to certain rules. But they're still processed. They're deconstructed foods a lot of times, like organic chips, right? Right? Organic cookies. These cookies are completely organic. Think about that. It's factory manufactured food and beverage products. We talked about whole natural versus that. And so, meats or plants, take your pick. And get the balance. 80% of what you consume should be plant-based, whole natural, and 20% should be the animal part, which could be cheeses, you know, dairies, meats, and it should ideally be the aged stuff, free range, as much as you can, wild caught, you name it. You know, it's not a perfect world, but my experience is many of you don't eat the amount of fruit and vegetables regularly that would make you feel better across the board. So try just adopting some of these basic strategies, and maybe you won't. And remember, products then take advertising. There's this world that we live in that is generated through advertisement and media, makes us believe this is it, right? I have another saying, I'm full of sayings. Trust what Mother Nature made, because everything else is made for profit. Right? You know, it's kind of speaks for itself. Anyway, yes?
I have one more quick comment.
Sure.
You talk about movement, and I'm sorry, but I have to move. I don't normally sit this long, so.
All right. You can move all you want. You can walk around the room if you feel compelled. I'm okay. I'm not.
I understand, but I have to get up.
Please get up and walk around. In fact, you're absolutely right. I don't think I eat a full meal without getting up 7 times to get something. You know, I'm just a naturally nervous person. And that is because I tend to stay active and I try to eat healthy. And yes, sitting is not a healthy activity for humans. It's not. Okay, anything else? Anybody else? Yes?
Any other alternatives to dairy? I hate milk.
Exactly, alternatives. Here's the reality. I hate it. Finickiness, and I hate it. I hate movement, I hate exercise, I hate fruit, I hate vegetables. The fact is they're commercially generated cottage. You want aged cheeses ideally, you know. It's a calcium source. The problem is that things are just generated overnight. Cottage cheese takes out the casein and whey out of milk and just makes it like here you go. You know, it's not quite the same as dairy products that have been aged with cultures over time that have many benefits. So there's preferable things and there's other things. So I guess cottage cheese is better than vanilla ice cream.
I go for that.
You know, so anyway. All right, anything else? Yes.
More and more you're hearing that people have 2 allergies, and the big ones are dairy and meat.
Yeah.
What is driving that?
Well, the problem we have is when you know, a lot of wheat products are not wheat products. They're that's a good word, wheat products. It's not wheat. It's made in factories. There's varying contaminants. It's unbalanced ingredients. There's contaminants in the processing. So when you eat a piece of bread, it comes with many different other hitchhikers on that level. And dairy, again, very interesting. If you look at organic milk versus conventional. There was one study that I read that, and you know, organic milk lasts 4 to 6 weeks or more. Conventional, 2 week. It's the filtering that goes on, the cleaning. And sometimes conventional milk products have a ton of contaminants, depending on the process and manufacturing that causes deterioration of the milk product. So who knows? The fact is that those are still products. They're made through some process, and the process counts. It's how you got there that may be, and the additives that may be responsible for allergies, as opposed to necessarily the component where it came from. You know, so yeah, and you know, and that's the problem in a commercial world where there's profitability in terms of, you know, human behaviors and eating. It's hard to kind of sort a lot of that out. Go natural, whole natural. You know, trust what Mother Nature made. Everything else is made for profit, and that's the best you could do, because the world in which we live in is changing. There's many, many, many influences on many different levels, and sometimes we're not even aware of what is the underpinnings of what's going on. So. Go natural.
Yeah, but Dr. Zahrebelski, so I got tested actually for dairy and wheat, and I'm allergic to them.
You might be. They're proteins, yes,
Right,
sure.
but the naturopathic doctor that I was seeing said, well, eliminate it and then selectively
Introduce.
Yes, and I have reintroduced cheese, and I don't have any problems anymore like I did before.
Sure. We develop allergies often to proteins. Proteins are certain kinds of molecules found in the nuts, dairy, you name it. And we're getting more and more allergies to soy, peanuts, and various other proteins because we're consuming a lot of these things, and wheat, you know. So yeah, there may be the possibility that you instigate a biological reaction, an immune response to these proteins. Very hard to sort out. Variety, you know, fruit, vegetables, legumes, beans, right? The grains were not all bread. It was barley, it was quinoa, and then there were dairy, and then there were different kinds of animal, you know, there's seafood, there's you name it. But yes, we can develop allergies. 80% plant-based, a lot of variety, because you want to feed your microbes at 20% animal-based. Okay? Okay. Well, yes.
Observation the other night at Walmart, 3 stock boys were arguing what has the longest shelf life.
Exactly.
A Hostess cupcake, a Twinkie, or a Yoko Ono record.
Well, you know, all those sound like commercial products, but the reality is that natural foods have identifiable, visible. You know, you smell it spoiled or it looks spoiled. You can more easily identify spoilage rather than spoilage or deterioration based on commercially manufactured products that have been laced with preservatives. So you can't identify it. It's very hard. That's why they give you a date. When the chips are not likely to be rancid or no good, you know, because you can't really look at it and understand what is happening in the food. So the point behind that, there are shelf lives, and that is unfortunately part of the reality in modern societies, and it affects us. All right, thank you.